over the past, since the fall York, we lost a valuable member of the TMCC legacy community, Dale. He was actually pretty instrumental in coming up with some neat TMCC legacy parts, pieces, gizmos. He was very instrumental in helping us all out on the OGR forum. So at this time, I'd just like to have everybody think of Dale and remember his contributions to our hobby. So my first thing I want to do, I know we've probably covered this quite a few times, but I don't know how many new folks are here. I want to do a quick LSU overview, kind of just let everybody see the steps for making a system module, making a multi-engine module, and backing up the database. Now with the other guys, MTH's DCS app coming out and some of the manufacturing a lot of people I assume are going to be trying to upgrade their legacy system to at least 1.5.2 to work with the SER2. So this SER2, I'm going to put that in the light for a second. This is required if you're going to use the DCS app. This basically lets the TIU talk through to the legacy base. It's the minimum requirements for that is a power supply that Lionel sells that plugs in, has a 9-pin connector and a special connector that plugs into this SCR2, and you plug that into the legacy base. There's no configuration on here. Obviously, you're going to need the MTH cable if you're going to use the MTH system connected to this. This also allows you to connect to other devices that need a data driver that would typically plug into the 9-pin connector.
When you plug in this connector, how do you plug it in when you have the Y connector using part of it? You plug it in part of the Y connector?
Yeah, there should be I believe it's the piece, a computer port and a TMCC1 port. It goes on the computer port, which would be the power supply, Y. So, to do the LSU upgrade, probably not the best picture, but see if I can get that focused a little better.
Get the lines out of it.
Well, it is what it is. So the LSU legacy system utility is available on the Lionel website if you can find it. And I say if you can find it because since they rearranged the website, it's kind of difficult. I'm actually going to talk to Dave and Dean about trying to get the legacy system utility and the system files a little bit more visible on their website. So there's a couple ways you can connect. Now that the Wi-Fi, LCS Wi-Fi box is available, if you have that connected, you can connect directly over Wi-Fi, go under Configure Communications. There's a little search box. It'll go out, find the box, and once it's connected, I'm sure it's a little hard to see, but down here on the bottom line, it'll say Wi-Fi connected, base connected. So right now it's just sitting idly. I'm talking to the base, and you're going to make a cab module. I'm not going to go through this procedure right now. We can review it after the meeting. I'm sure there's a lot of people who have already seen this. But to make a cab module, simply go to Make Cab Module. Again, if you've already found the downloaded software, it's usually a zip file that'll have a cab file, and at this point it's version 1.61, and you have a base file, currently 1.60. The difference in the files is with the new sensor car that came out, the cab file needed updating to work properly with TMCC engines. But very simply, you'd go to that file, double click, it would start writing it if there was a module in my base. You put the module in the base, and I can actually probably show that real quick. So at least you can. So for you guys unfamiliar, black modules or the writable blue modules that John modifies, also available information-wise. You'd stick this in your base. When you hit that prompt where it would say make cab module, it would go proceed to make the cab module. The good news is if you're actually at your base and not necessarily at the train show, you could use one module. You could upgrade your base first, rewrite the module for your cab, and upgrade your cab. So basically, one module is required if you're going to do it on site. If you're going to have somebody else do it, you're going to need at least 2 modules. And the same procedure is for making the base module. Once you find the software on the Lino website and you downloaded it, you'd find the, and it automatically either looks for the base file if you're doing the base. If you're doing the cab, it looks for the cab file. So it's pretty intuitive. The other thing with the legacy system utility is the backup database. Now, you know, hopefully in the unlikely event that you have to send back your base for repair for Lino, either, you know, your battery charger's not working or, you know, something happens to it and you want to send back your base, you can copy your database. And basically I clicked on the little icon that said backup database. It's already starting. There's a progress bar. Takes about, I'm going to say about 1.5 minutes. Once it's done, it's going to ask you to choose a file name and where to save it. Typically what I do is the date, so that you kind of know when the last backup was. And you save it to your PC, so you can save it to a thumb drive, so you can take it to somebody else's base. I don't know if it actually like you to do that, or if you have multiple bases. Another thing you can do with doing a backup database is if you have more than 99 engines and you want to kind of create a couple databases that have a mixture of, say you got 150 engines, and you want to kind of mix them up between databases, you can make multiple databases with different engines in it. And depending on your running session, you can choose that database to run. Then you don't have to delete engines and reload engines. They'll all kind of be there for you. So this is about 77% done. So while we're waiting, I see that Dean and Dave walked in. We were going to ask you, is there any way to make the LSU program and the upgrade files a little bit more accessible on the website? Can we pass that along to the website folks? That seems to be the hardest part of doing an upgrade right now.
It's already been discussed and we're working on it right now.
Great. So right now, it's asking me, okay, what do you want to call it? Like I said, I usually give it a database name and I give it a date. It's going to be a .hex file. Make sure you know where you're saving it. I usually have one folder that has all the train stuff in it, database save. Basically, the restore database is just the backwards. You hit the restore, you're going to go look for that file, double click, and it downloads it into the database. So I'm not, you know, obviously for time's sake, since we got started a little bit late, I'm not going to do that. The other thing you can do, and I don't know how many people take advantage of this, is you can make a multi-engine module. A lot of folks have up to, I'm sure more than 100 engines, but you can put 99 of the orange modules on one module. So if you're going over a buddy's house or you're part of a club and you don't want to necessarily carry all your orange modules with you, you can download all the information that's in your base into an engine, into a black module. Now it doesn't store any kind of TMCC ID. It's basically creating 99, or how many engines you have in your database, 99 orange modules. It'll do it for TMCC engines. So those of you who have TMCC engines and you want to just back that up and you don't want to have to re-enter the information every time you take your TMCC engine with you. This will back up, make basically an orange module for a TMCC engine. You can select a single engine if, for whatever reason, I believe the Legacy Shays didn't come with them this time. There's a couple more engines that didn't come with them in the past. And you just want a module for it. You can create one black module that'll act as the orange module. Now obviously that information already has to be in your Legacy base, either by running it over a sensor track. If it has a sensor on it, it'll upload that information to your base and then you can pull it out of your base. Or you might have entered that manually at one time. So that's the quick LSU overview. You can also do some naming of engines. You can change the road numbers, the names. You can change the two lower screens where you can either put ditch lights on and off, some hazard lights, the ground lights on those two lower screens. So if you have a chance, play with it. I would probably advise you backing up your database first, and then you can really play with it. It has train data. You can see how your trains are laid out. I know it's a little hard to see, but there's two engines in this. It's the forward engine. It has the horns and the sounds in it. And you can do all this editing on here. And I think as John found out, sometimes if you have some little bit of buggy stuff in there, you can actually clear it out, and it seems to do a little bit better job of clearing it out. It gives you some basic information like base versions and throw rates and the name of the base, and you can change that all through this little program. It's actually a pretty nice little program to talk to the Legacy base. So I hope that was a little bit helpful for you. I know, like I said, we probably reviewed that a couple times, but I thought it was worth redoing. As I said, I know a lot of people are probably maybe not at 1.52. Like I said, that's the minimal requirement to start working with the LCS modules. Current versions 1.6 for the base, 1.61 for the cab. And if you're, like I said, I think the SCR2 is probably going to get a lot more popular in the next few weeks. So in order to use this, you have to be above 1.52. And to use this, you also need the power adapter, which is basically a power supply with a Y-cord 9-pin and the PDI connector that's on this device. I would recommend getting the Wi-Fi for the LSU, but again, if you have a PC with a serial port or a USB to serial, you can connect right to the base and it'll work. Before we go on to the Q&A, one of the things I really like to do is talk about a little about the LCS partnership. One of those partners is eTrain. I'm not going to go into great detail about this, but the eTrain system is available through purchase. I believe there's an eBay page, and I got some flyers out in the car, and I'll have somebody run out and get them. Basically, this is a PC program. It has an Android companion program, but you can pretty much do quite a bit. You got legacy controls, you got sounds. It's got a really cool IR sensor interface, and you got all this data here that really nobody else uses. I pointed this out on the forum a couple days ago. Within the engine, if the engine would cross over that sensor track, you're going to get stuff like the run time, product revision, product ID, the year it was made. So there's a lot of information that RV pulls out of the sensor track that most LCS partners or even Lionel at this point doesn't pull out for you guys. I'm pretty sure they'll probably use it back at the plant, but for the most part, he pulls it out. I asked him why. He said just because he could. He doesn't know what people would do with it, but you know what? I kind of think it's cool. And you can set, much like one of the other LCS partners, which I'll show you in a second, you can do stuff with the sensor track. We all know, and we've talked about this in the past, how if you do anything with the cab 2, you have to physically touch the sensor track, push the button, and go through that process to change the commands. Both E-Train and the other LCS partner I'll show you in a second, they both allow you to change the commands on the sensor track and allow you to record and play back on the sensor track without touching it. So now, whereas originally you had to be at least within arm shot of the sensor track, now you can put them in the back of your layout, you can put them all over the place under a tunnel, and you don't have to touch it to change the command. So that's the E-Train console. Now we can get out of this horrible, horrible resolution of that. And get back to the iPad, which is a little bit better. And the other LCS partner I'm going to show us right now. Hey, that's my puppy. Easy there. The other LCS partner is Hi-Rail. The Hi-Rail app we've covered also in the past. Basically, pretty much this sort of the same as iCab, but there's he only does currently legacy engines. You can look at sensor tracks. You can grab a sensor track. You can do a change of what it's going to do. So if I push there, it brings up all the different actions. Now these are all the things you used to have to push the button for on the sensor track. Use your cab 2, assign. Now you can do it from right here. You choose whatever you want. Right now it's journey ending. So if I just want to do the crossing signal, I hit the checkbox, hit set. Now that sensor track, when the engine goes over, will do the crossing signal. I don't have to touch it. I'm far away. So, and he's working on some more stuff for some of the other LCS products that are out there. It also has engine control. Obviously, we don't have an engine here, but if I did and it was the 484, I bring it up. Might be easier to see that way. So you'll notice it's probably kind of hard to see. I tried to pick out a color, but there is a ring there. So, well, let's change the color. So I don't like that color. I want something hopefully a little bit easier to see for you guys. Save it. It doesn't really help either, but on the iPad it is a little bit more visible. I turn, just like your red knob, I turn. You got your target speed. And slowly you can see that purple line turning green. And that is pretty much matching your graph as it attacks that target speed there, that purple line there. You can also say, hey, this is one of my favorite engines. I want to keep this because I'm going to run this in 4 other engines. There's that little star. Tap that little star. Now, I can go over favorites. Now I have the 3 engines I run the most, or the 3 engines I'm running in that session. They're all favorites. If you notice, if I switch to the Pennsylvania Sharp Nose, the ATSF, I can still see that that's climbing. The meat is still moving, so now I can control this one. And now I can go to the Hudson and I can control that one. So now all 3 graphs are moving on the left-hand side there, and I can keep track of that. And you might have noticed there's a picture within that window. Again, you know, that's all through this app. You call it up, you can take a picture, put your favorite engine in there, and pretty much customize this. So this is, again, available. You can go to Lionel website, and they kind of shoot you to the different LCS partner websites. So they're two of the apps, and of course, we all know about the LCS system that Lionel, this is a free system, more of a layout control in my mind. It does run engines. Doesn't run them, in my mind, particularly well. It's a little bit more difficult, but I don't, talking to John, it wasn't really necessarily made for running engines and stuff. It was more of a layouts control. So you can throw switches, got some accessories, you can control smoke loader. It talks to all the LCS devices, including the block power controller too, and the switch controller. So that's the LCS app. And finally, we have the Lionel iCab. Again, pretty much kind of looks like your iCab, or your, try to set it up like your cab too, so you have all your different functionality. Drag the line, and the graph follows. So that's the quick overview of that. Now that Dave has shown up, we'll go into the Q&A, and give me a second here. So these questions were submitted online at the OGR forum, and first question, will there be an iCab equivalent for the Android users like myself who have no intention of ever getting any iThings? One thing I'll note right away, again, the E-Train partner has an Android app, and I believe there is another Blue Train app out there that I've never gotten information on from the LCS developer, but the answer is, and do you want to read these answers, or do you just want me to read them off and comment as needed?
Go for it.
All right. So we're working on the Android version of the Lion Chief app right now. Android version of the iCab is not out of the question, but certainly not something that we'll be seeing in 2017. There will be most likely never an Android app of the Android version of the LCS app, as it would be cost prohibitive. So the LCS app was the more layout control designing app, not necessarily the iCab app. Okay, so between 1998 and 2008, Lionel used boxed infrared sensors for communication between steam engines. Starting in 2008 and to this day, the sensors are eyelet sensors. Was there a legacy reason for this switch, or purely commercial? What this is talking about is the sensor between a tender and the engine. It was a bigger boxy infrared system, and now it's a smaller little basic, almost just a little, like it said, eyelet. Not a Lionel related reason, just a commercial decision for a more readily available sensor. Technology changes and we adapt. So basically it was just an availability issue. Do all legacy engines have Roll 17 lighting? I noticed that some older 2007 legacy engines do not have Roll 17 lighting. And the answer is all modern legacy engines have Roll 17. Older engines may not have this feature, as it was still in development back then. And I can assure you, yes, that some older engines, I have a few of them, no Roll 17. I think that started out actually in roughly 2012 when the sensor system came out as well. And that's something you can activate on the cab too. There's 3 settings, on, off, and auto. Basically, in auto is where I leave it, so when your engine's sitting at rest, the headlight dims. When you start it up, it brightens up automatically. You don't have to touch it. Is it possible the footprint of the legacy board could be made smaller for other scales, for example, HO scale? Anything is possible, but bringing legacy to other scales is not something currently on the radar. With HO, N, etc., DCC is is industry standard, and users are not looking to change that. S is the exception, and legacy already exists there with the BEMC. Some legacy engines, even to this day, have RailSans Lite. Is there any difference between RailSans Lite and legacy RailSans 5, 5.5, 6.0, and later? Long answer. RailSans Lite, aka RSL, is the successor to RailSans 6 platform. The Lite is a reference to the fact that the RSL board includes its power supply and sound generating hardware on the same PCB. In RailSans Lite 6 and earlier, there were two boards, one for the sound system power supply and one board for the sound generating circuitry. Lite does not mean fewer features. The RSL board has more capability than the RailSans 6.0 or any previous version. Has more sound storage capacity than its previous hardware, incorporates all the sound algorithms from their earlier products plus new ones. In short, it is the most sophisticated sound system we have manufactured so far. Is there a part list for the Vision Reefer sets items? Well, I'm not going to read the items, but they're there and this will be copied. But the quicker answer is they're almost ready and should go live shortly. So I would suggest checking every now and then on the Line-Out website with the numbers, and those lists should be up. That was a Dean answer. You could tell it was quick and to the point. When TMCC1 and TMCC2 legacy engines are having signal problems, as evidenced by flickering headlights, there is a trick called the hand trick, which is when you hold your hand right above the locomotive with signal problems, it temporarily regains signal. Why does this trick work? I tried to be as descriptive as possible. The location where the hand is held over the engine is typically where the antenna plate is inside the engine in a diesel, for example. Your hand can block signal interference that is present at that particular location. One way to improve signal in this instance would to open the engine, attach a wire to the antenna plate, and run the length of the engine inside the shell. Usually hot gluing the wire to the inside of the shell works. This expands the antenna footprint and helps alleviate signal issues. The same thing is done with adding ground planes to multi-level layouts. And, you know, obviously this is kind of an extreme example, but sometimes it could just be a signal problem with that area that you may be able to solve running a ground plane wire. Any plans for a Line-Out LCS insulated rail detector device for detecting trains, cars, to send info over the LCS for CTC signals or computer? Basically what this is asking, you know, we use a lot of insulated rails to activate accessories and so forth. Basically, I gather this question is there any way to use insulated rails to act as train detection for the LCS system? Another long one. Possibly, but it seems unlikely this would come to fruition. Making the detecting track is probably not the hardest part of the project. The LCS app would have to be expanded in some large way. Maybe include the ability to create user macros that would play on triggers. The functionality of the insulated track in some ways overlaps with the sensor track. But all the system would know is that something was in the block section. But not know the idea of the engine that was present. Unless there was also sensor track at the entry of the block, it just seems like a lot of work for a small audience. Speaking as the LCS Partners evangelist, I'd say if there is a club with some significant technical skills that wanted to partner on this, that we might help to move this effort. When or if will we see road-specific dialogue with the engine's road name and number in the crew talk? I really missed that feature.
Amen. Amen.
Road and number specific dialogue is very work intensive to record, process, test, and implement. When this was done a number of years ago, there was a team of sound engineers to process the sound. Nowadays, Rudy has to handle all the sound work solo. Doing specific dialogue can take up to 3 months for one engine. This is why it's now limited to Vision Line engines, and I believe it has been announced it will be in the brass engines that are currently at the Lionel booth to look at. Wow. I'm going to kind of generalize this question. Wow. The question was, the operator wants to make a lash up, but not have the trains in the same, not have the engines in the same train. So he wants to start up, run 2 engines, set the speed of the engine at the same pace using the train function, but have all the sound and functionality of each engine independent of the other. So basically he wants to build a train without building a train and have all the individual engines function sound-wise independently, not necessarily control-wise. And again, all these questions will be posted with their answers on the forum so that we don't have to, I won't have to read all those. But the entire architecture of the code was developed to MU or lash-up engines. Adding a feature to make a train, but then run them separately would not be viable. There also is the Engine 99 feature. We tend to avoid that a lot of times because you'll probably have multiple engines on the track, so any Engine 99 command, they'll all move out. So again, be careful using Engine 99, but that is sort of an option if you're running 2 engines and that's what you want to accomplish. Can you make the aux 3 button operate city horns on engines equipped with both horns and whistles like GS2, GS4, AC12? I swear I recall on the first generation legacy GS4 that there was a horn icon on the cab too. Maybe I'm not remembering that properly. Regardless, pushing 2 buttons to operate the horn is a bit of a nuisance. aux 3, as we all know now, operates the GG1 sparking pantograph effect, does some features on that, FP40 PH cabbage units, and more to come. Changing its function to activate the horn on certain engines would take away the ability to activate other features with this button that was intended for. Toggling whistle horn on these engines will remain as it currently is. I use the LCS in conjunction with the BPC2s and ASC2s. The system works great, and I love the custom control panels. I also use the legacy Power Masters to control my power districts. Is there a digital toggle button in LCS so that I control also the Power Masters with my iPad? If there is, I've never found it. We will consider adding this enhancement. So I would take that as currently there's nothing, but it's something that they'll look into. Please consider develop more uses for sensor track. That product is underutilized at the moment. How about breakdown units have various time bomb features? Ooh, time bomb. Triggers units that have various time bomb features that trigger after the engine crosses over the sensor track X amount of times. Can the sensor track communicate with ASC2s? Can an engine crossing over a sensor track trigger an accessory to operate? There is no X number of times functionality. This sort of scenario would require a high level of macro or scripting language that was controlled by a computer or tablet. There's no practical way to incorporate this program and this sort of functionality within the sensor track from the cab remote. Needs a significant development effort. LCS partner programs exist to help this effort, but it requires the tech-savvy folks from the hobby to participate. That said, the other 2 scenarios asked, and the question is yes. A sensor track recording can trigger switch commands with an ASC2 or command control fast track, and yes, an engine crossing over a sensor track can trigger an accessory using the recording feature as well. There's a trick on the forum called the cell phone trick, using a mobile device with a camera aimed directly at the IR sensor on the locomotive so equipped. A purple or red screen indicates the IR is working. Why does this work? Simple cell phone image can see that infrared light and display it. So that's why it works. It's just the imagery in the cell phone and being able to detect that infrared light. Why did Lionel move from modular legacy boards to the RCMC, and what is the history that can be given about that? With modular legacy, there were so many different boards that served different purposes. There needed to be unique motherboards between engines, and the electronics were rather large and presented size constraints in many engines. John created the RCMC as a one-size-fits-all. This allowed the simplification. This allowed the same PCB used in all legacy engines. It simplified production, code work, and lowered electronics cost. And here's a big one. Any word on having Bluetooth on legacy or higher end engines? And at this point, I was told we were looking into it, and that lasted all but one day. What's that?
Memory candy. No, just kidding.
If you're looking at the brass engine, it's been announced on the forum and even in the presentation that that will have Bluetooth operation on it. Basically, anything you get from Lion Chief Plus engine, using the Lion Chief Plus Bluetooth app, you will get out of that engine. Doesn't make that app have legacy features or anything. You basically have the Lion Chief Plus capabilities running that engine from your Bluetooth.
Question. On the website, the specification for the brass engine, it lists nothing about Bluetooth. And I know it was announced at the show, but on the website, there's nothing in Lionel's website about Bluetooth operation on the brass engine.
Yeah, I'm just going by what was announced though, and what I've actually seen. So, and Dave's here, so you can talk to Dave when we get done here. Anyway, you use Bluetooth to transmit the engine sound, so they can be played over a Bluetooth speaker, headphones, or computer sound system. Not at this time. Bluetooth communication is a one-by-one pairing engine to controller. Adding an external speaker will introduce a third Bluetooth device, which currently the system does not support. So the answer to that would be no, and that's even, you can even see that because only one Bluetooth operator can talk to an engine at a time. All others get locked out when operators are running Bluetooth. Please commit, what's our time here? I don't want to, we're doing good. Please consider making an STM that will communicate switch positions of switches controlled by a DZ2500 to LCS. I was bummed that the STM2 did not do that. In the works. MTH announced their full premium app is coming out soon, which we all know it's actually been released. Any thoughts on the reports that the DCS Wi-Fi app will be able to operate legacy engines in legacy mode? Was there any cooperation in the development of legacy control portion of their apps? Did they sign up as an LCS partner? The answer back, LCS partner program is open to both hobbyists and manufacturers alike. We're happy to see the support for legacy engines in the forthcoming MTH app. Because the legacy protocol is freely available, it wasn't necessary for MTH to become an LCS partner to add this functionality to their product. Benefits of joining the LCS partner program include the protocol to connect the LCS Wi-Fi module and the ability to access the information in the database, such as engine roster. We can assume that the MTH app will not be able to make use of any roster-related legacy features, but again, the freely available legacy protocol will allow MTH or any other developer operation and control of a legacy locomotive.
Short answer on that one, Lionel Engineering and MTH Engineering will trade that functionality. It's helping the hobby a little.
There you go.
That's a good program.
So if you didn't hear that, Dave said that there was some cooperation between MTH and Lionel Engineering to make that happen, which is good for all of us. These questions came in, I think, pretty late, and Dave actually was browsing the forum and gave us some answers for them. Why not make the trains engines two-way on messages? Give the ability to ask the engines for some info and get something back while running on the track. No sensor track, don't give that as an answer, Dave.
Guess what I gave as an answer?
First, I wanted to answer sensor track, and then I thought a bit more about the question. It doesn't even make sense. You can get the speed direction from the legacy database already. Yes, fuel and water only available via sensor track. What else would you like to know? Location, of course, and so again, the sensor track. The engine does not know where it is, and I'm pretty sure that it would be the top question folks would want to ask it. So again, if you know, remembered I showed you the LCS system. If you have a sensor track on your display, as that engine crosses, that information is popped up on the screen. So if you have, I have had some legacy sharks here in the past. As that legacy shark passes over, it gives me the ID of that engine, it gives me the name of that engine, and it also gives the direction of travel of that engine. So even though the sensor track wasn't the preferred answer, it pretty much does at least some layout location of that engine. Likewise, a future revision of switches could include that they know their state, straight or turn, left, right, instead of using STM2 thing for that. Good suggestion we will consider for future product. Question and reply. Would you be willing to run a LCS PDI cable to daisy chain each one of these new smart switches?
Absolutely. Well, you have to run some sort of cable down to the STM too.
Yeah. Next up, the LCS Wi-Fi is nice, but the interface is low level to get to the LCS packets. This is a little bit deep for all of us that aren't programmers, I would think. It's all well and good, but maybe a higher level interface could be created. They're easing developers and have that adoption. Sorry about that. Find someone to collaborate with who can help with the low level details. Many LCS partners have successfully made the leap and are taking the LCS Wi-Fi with their own custom code running on PCs, Androids, iOS devices, and Arduino. I know how to pronounce that, but it ain't coming out. But anyways, there are folks out there. Again, I showed you the E-Train. I showed you the Hi-Rail app, so folks are out there doing it. Finally, can we get a quieter fast track on the development path? I know I asked for so little. Putting layers of foam or other material under the roadbed reduces noise. No plans to change this at this time. So that's the Q&A section of this. Really no need to have that on anymore, so if we want to bring up the lights. So John asked, about when I first sent the questions, if we could give Dave some time to ask you folks some questions. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Dave. He has some information and questions for us. I did.
Hey, Dave, does Lionel have any plans on displaying your Wi-Fi system for people to use?
So you want me to come up front there, Marty?
Sure, it might be easier. For everybody that doesn't know, Dave Olson, engineering manager, Lionel.
Yes, sir. Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Does Lionel have a plan, like at York and other shows, to display the Wi-Fi system?
In terms of displaying it on an Android app or an Apple device?
Yeah, just show people how it works.
That's a very good suggestion. We should try to do that next year.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Does Lionel have any idea, I know the answer, but no, but I'll ask anyway.
Sensor track.
No. And I hate to say this, but I will anyway. To get rid of these foolish PCI cables and go to things like Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, because people always have system sets to run these foolish cable all around Helen Creation. It seems to have gone backwards. The whole system seems to have gone backwards versus forwards to wireless.
Understood. Well, you have to understand too, there's still power going to that PDI cable, so you
Sure.
still have to power every single box. You're going to have cables no matter what. So to go to Wi-Fi, you have to have a radio or a transmitter in every one of those blue boxes, which is going to, radios are expensive, so the cost of every blue box would go quite through the roof, honestly. So PDI cable was the easiest solution we thought of to connect all the boxes, and technically, or not technically, typically a lot of people put the majority of their blue boxes near whatever hub of their layout is where the power is. So we figured, offering different length cables to help
Like
alleviate
the
that.
STM2 things that we gotta put in your switchers.
Correct.
So, but then, I mean, people who have layouts already,
Mhm.
it's just adding another layer of cables.
Mhm.
So,
Well, we try to make your life as complex as possible.
you do.
You're welcome. We'll talk about that with John and Rudy when I get back. See if there's a way we could even brainstorm how we could make it simple.
The Lionel LCS layout control app on the iPad, is there a certain iOS revision you have to be at, or a certain iPad generation you have to use?
No, it should be open to any Apple device at the moment.
Okay,
Are you having an issue?
yeah.
What device do you have?
It's an iPad 2.
Okay.
It's the second iPad that came out, and I cannot download the app on it.
Do you have the device with you?
No.
Okay. I was gonna say, come to the booth and I can help you with it. Or you can give us a call. You just need to have the device, otherwise it's
Yeah,
difficult
but
to help you.
you can't download it on an iPhone, it has to be on an iPad.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's,
I'm sorry.
yeah. Oh, an iPad mini, will it work on that?
It should, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, let me ask one. How many guys here run a track system that's not fast track? How many of those guys with their hands raised like the sensor system? How many guys don't like it that they have to buy fast track sensor systems? Okay. That's what I thought. John and I have been working the past year and a half or so on doing some kind of sensor track system that would be incorporated into anybody else's track system. So we're thinking of coming out with that in 2018. So I just wanted to let you guys know that we have thought about that and we'll be doing something there.
So we don't have to trash the old one, right, take the rails out and get it all underneath there.
Correct. It'll be essentially a blue box, and your sensors will go on the track. Very easy installation. You just run the cable back to the blue box. So I'm just adding more cables for you, okay?
Thank you.
When can you be coming out with that?
18. Let's see, what's another one I can for you? There was the question about the DZ2500s, and we've also developed that. That also should be out in 18, so that we can have the switch control for those. At this time, it will be able to do the DZ2500s. We won't be able to support the DZ1000s. And that should be all I got at the moment. I was going to ask questions about, if you guys would enjoy seeing Bluetooth and engines, and we kind of decided for you. So. That's all I got for you. Yes, sir.
Actually, I don't know if you talked about it, but are you going to go any further with the Bluetooth? Because right now it'll give you line sheet functionality.
Line
Now,
sheet plus.
now I have a legacy engine on order with Bluetooth. You're going to see additional Bluetooth functionality?
The Bluetooth functionality will be designed to kind of be that stair step between the Lion Chief and the Legacy for people to move up through the control systems and then kind of foster an environment where they get more complex and more operation and more playability with the products. So at this time, it's really meant to turn an existing a legacy engine into something that can be controlled as a Lion Chief Plus engine for those guys who find legacy to be daunting, and for the people who maybe just want to give a controller to their kids and let them run without having to figure out 8 million buttons on a legacy controller. Let me see if I can.
What new features are going to start coming out for the Legacy? Are there any really great features on the Legacy controller?
The controller itself?
No, the
No.
controller, or are they just features in general for the engines?
Well, we can't talk about new features on new products.
We'd have to kill you, so.
That's okay. Yeah.
No, I'm too lazy to do that. No, you typically see new features on Vision Line engines. And
Right,
like,
but you gotta start bringing some of these new features to non-Vision Line?
well, that's what we have been doing. For example, the S2, the electric we just did, has the swinging bell in it. You guys all know about the Milwaukee S3 we did a number of years ago now that had the steam chest smoke in it, et cetera. So we want to dabble in and put originally developed legacy Vision Line products into just regular legacy engines. And we
So all the new stuff will be on Vision Line first.
yeah, that's how it's always been. Anything else? Yeah, you guys got anything else? Oh, keep going.
Is there going to be an upgrade kit for Bluetooth?
No. The difficulty there is that the RCMC code itself has to be modified. So if you wanted to upgrade, you would have to reprogram or reflash the RCMC. And that obviously, makes it difficult. Because in the RCMC you have to have the Bluetooth protocols, and obviously that doesn't exist in something that we haven't created yet. So. Yes, sir.
Now, you're starting to do more scale-size steam engines, and with LC Plus, and they're all 2 chuffs per revolution, and you've gone through the form and figured out that you cannot upgrade that. Is there a chance that you're going to be going to 4 chuffs per revolution on those scale-sized LC Plus engines?
On the LC Plus engines, on scale size, I know we've done the A5 recently, but it was decided by the project managers that they would keep the 2 chuffs per revolution for now. Yes?
Is there any thought of coming out with the camera that's on the new theater car, which is a very nice camera, coming out with that as a kit so we can put it into smaller cars or put it into engines or whatever?
I haven't thought about that. That's a good idea. Yes. I know it's the first car we're offering it in is obviously a 21-incher, so it's really prohibitive for guys with smaller layouts. But it's not the last car you're going to see, but offering it is a good idea.
Just like a car and
Oh, look at his hair! Question about the theater car, I was watching it on the way out, and I was looking at the video, and to be frank, the video did not look like it was running at 30 frames a second. It was a little stuttery once in a while. Is that?
That laptop I have here at the booth today is a point-of-sale machine.
Okay, that's an artifact of what you're running it on now.
Correct. I have my phone. If you want to see how it actually looks, just come up and I can show you through my phone.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. It was a loaner laptop. You know how those go.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You've had Vision Line tank cars and reefers, stock cars. Is that line going to continue with different types of cars?
Yes, sir.
When can we expect to do?
If I told you what's the line,
I'd have to kill you.
Have to kill you.
I'm not going to do that. I'm just not tell you. Yes, sir.
I want to thank you. I think Lionel's come a long way. I really appreciate the technology, the time you give us, Marty over there, for having these user groups. I can't come very often, I live a long way, but they deserve a big hand. They
Yeah, along that note, it's something I spoke to Marty about a couple weeks ago. I know there was some worry in this past catalog round of there's more Lion Chief Plus, less legacy offerings. Lion Chief Plus going to come in and legacy going to go away, and that's not true. We are fully committed to legacy. We're fully committed to continuing new development on products. Obviously, we have a limited number of engineers, so we can only develop so much so quickly. And we don't want to put out rushed projects because you end up with messes, right? So everything does have to go through the proper product cycle. But it's not. Lionel obviously is a company to make money, but we're not just in it to make money. We're in it to make cool trains and cool gadgets. And people like myself, John, Ryan, are true train guys, and we love the products. We buy the products because we're insane. And honestly, the more we develop, the more cool stuff we can do, the more we can take home and have fun with ourselves.
Yeah.
So we're just as committed to this product line, if not more, than you guys are. Yes, sir.
The Lionel sound cars you have in the boxcar, is there anything in putting it like maybe guys who run a unit trains, maybe in an auto rack or you know, a coal hopper or something like that, so you can run a unit train, have the sound. I actually them on a train, they're pretty cool.
Or a sensor car kit.
Those are two different questions. Yes to that one, there will be more development and more use of that technology. And sensor card kit, that one has not been discussed yet. That's a big idea as well. It might be something through, you know, electric railroad or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Anything else from you guys? Yes, sir?
Yes, one just a note, I don't think I'm the only one. With recent Lionel stuff I've got, particularly high-end stuff, like through Alleghenies in particular, quality control problems. I know you're well aware of this, but I think it's worth emphasizing, particularly on the high-end products. You put out the best part of $2 grand and have 2 in a row go down on you the very first day. You know, that's not good, so.
I understand that. There's been many nights kept up recently by quality control problems. 2 engines that really highlight this can be the Allegheny and the GG1. Obviously, both engines, high price tag and high expectations from not only customers but ourselves. Every engine has a reasonable fallout rate, like 2-3%. You know we're going to come back because that's just typical manufacturing. With these engines, there were issues. The biggest issue with the Allegheny was the packaging, in which the packaging was screwed to the frame of the engine, and I mean some of the screws stripped right out just because it's such an heavy engine. Obviously, everybody knows Dean does a wonderful job in service, taking care of everybody, and has a really fast turnaround. And I really just try to make sure he has job security.
Way too much lately.
But yeah, those are issues that we are worried about and concerned about, and I will be traveling to China later this year to meet with all the factories, with quality control being pretty much the number 1, if not number 2 or top 3 items to talk about. We are committed to making sure quality is back up where it needs to be, and we'll get there. Every engine this year, we're looking straight at QC, and there's going to be 100% check off the line. We're going to get it for you.
Bring your biggest bat for the F40 PH.
Do what?
Bring your biggest bat to the guys with the F40.
That's its own unique story. So.
Are you redesigning the board for the GG1 for the rear pantograph?
We do have there was a slight issue with some engines where the pantographs required a larger motor driver. So the ones that do require those to come into service, Dean has the new boards and replaces those as they come in and out.
So
not every engine is going to need it. It's just variations in mechanics in production. But everyone that has a pantograph problem that comes into service will get the new.
will it fail right away or not?
Which,
It's going to fail. Will it fail right away?
it can, but most likely it would be a few cycles because the failure would end up being is the chip would overheat. So you would have to go through a few cycles. But we had that problem. We've seen it on maybe less than 10% of engines. So it's nothing to worry about.
All right, it's a little bit more than 10 minutes till we're going to wrap it up. First of all, I'd like to thank Dave and I'd like to thank the Eastern Division TCA for providing the room. I'm going to work a little bit harder next fall for getting the doors open a little bit sooner. I'd like to thank basically all of you, because without all of you using the legacy system and your interest in legacy, we don't have a meeting, we don't have a legacy system, and it could be a pretty boring Friday morning, or not. Here's some LCS partner pamphlets or handouts. These will also be available as a download when we do the forum summary. I want to thank Dave Sly for videotaping the event. It'll be about a week and a half before this gets up. I'm assuming we all have real jobs back at Pittsburgh and Ohio, so give us a little bit of leeway to get that up, but it'll be on the forum as a YouTube download. So thank you very much. Please clean up the room, keep it as nice as when we got here, and have a great meet.